Winters here can feel like such a battle. The days are very short, we see very little sun, and our weather alternates between freezing cold and endless rain. And because of the weather, there is so much more to do. The animals have to be fed, vehicles and our water pipes have to be de-iced. Our roads often become impassable, sometimes with snow, sometimes with flooding, and through it all, the caravan has to be kept warm with an endless supply of firewood. So it can be very difficult to find joy and ease in this season. It is by far the most difficult one of the year, but that is what I'm going to attempt to do this week. This winter has been a particularly tough one. Since quite early in September, we have had months of very heavy rain, with not a lot to break them up, apart from a couple of weeks of freezing cold and heavy snow. During those weeks, our road up to the house became pretty much impassable with ice. And when the last batch of ice and snow was over, we were back into storms. In the last few days, we have had two named storms Isha and Jocelyn, and several really stormy days in between those. Honestly, we have never seen so much rain since living here. There were floods on the roads, there were floods in the field, there was water really just running in every direction. So it has been a really difficult time, and I have to say my usual distaste for winter has definitely come out of the woodwork. Now, I thought I was coping with winter quite well this year. We did get a bit of sunshine early on in December, and that made such a nice change after the gloomy autumn. But I have reached the point now where I have just had enough. It is still very dark. It is not getting light here until after 8 o'clock in the morning. Everything is sodden. It has been incredibly windy. We're having to fight leaks and damage from the weather on all sides. It is getting to the end of January, so I think the hardest month of winter is drawing to a close. But I am really just so ready for spring now. But I do know that spring is at least another month off. It will not start to feel any warmer or drier here probably until March at the very earliest. But some years it is April and some years it is even May. And even May can be quite cold. We have had years where we haven't turned off our heating until June. So we're still very much in winter for the long haul, and there's nothing I can do about that except to try and change my appreciation of the winter landscape and this season. Now, this is something I try to do every year because winter really does get to me. Sometimes I do that by getting more cozy at home and enjoying my time indoors, and that's great. But what I really want to do this time around is try and reconnect to the wider landscape. Because of the bad weather, we haven't been outside very much recently, apart from to complete all the daily chores. Our usual trips and walking have been very much curtailed, but I want to change that. I do love living in the north of England. This place really does feed my soul and I feel very much a part of it. And I want that to be a feeling that persists all year round. So this is going to be a week for getting outside, whatever the weather, and trying to reconnect to this harsh but very beautiful place we call home.
the shadows of this quiet town. I see you there, your feathers on the ground. Your eyes are heavy with the weight of the world. What's in a life you never could affirm? Even if you've never flown before, you can take a chance and try once more.
I kind of had this idea yesterday of getting up into the hills and being able to see some really far-reaching views, but it turned out to be really cold and windy, so that wasn't really feasible with our 5-year-old in tow. But we did manage a really nice walk. We walked from Lowther Castle down to the tiny hamlet of Whale, and it was just so nice to be outside. It feels like a few weeks since we've done a really good walk, so that made a nice change. And honestly, there's nothing that makes me feel better about winter than getting outside, as long as the weather isn't too bad. And then in the afternoon, we nipped into our local town to pick up some bird food, and we actually discovered that the grocer's where we buy our bird food has an entire back room, which is basically a very small Asian supermarket. We did not know this was there, but there were a lot of products in there which I have never seen even in British supermarkets. So that was a real treasure trove. And to be honest, another thing that makes me feel very reconnected to this landscape and the place that I live is finding little hidden gems like that. We've lived here for a bit over a year now, and we are still finding fantastic places to visit, new shops, new cafes, and we're constantly meeting more people around the local area as well. And it is just really nice to feel part of this place, part of this community, and to just feel more settled here. It can be difficult moving to a new area in the north of England because you tend to find that in these rural farming communities, everyone knows each other, everyone went to school with everyone else, a lot of people are related, and it can be hard to come into that as an outsider. But at the same time, you do find that everyone is very friendly, very giving, very eager to help if you need a hand. And whilst that is a different sense of feeling connected here, it is equally important. Now today the weather is actually really nice. There is a little bit of sunshine out there. We are going to be largely at home today. I have been making some cardamom buns. They're a bit of an experiment because I've never made them before, but I will show you those. And honestly, it's just going to be nice to hang out here today and enjoy the break in the weather. These are the Swedish cardamom buns that we've had a go at making. We've never made them before, so we've got 8 buns, and I think we've kind of knotted them in 8 different ways, but they do smell amazing. There's a lot of sugar and butter in the filling, so I think they're going to be tasty however they end up looking. It's a rather cold and blustery Tuesday morning, although the forecast does show a lot of sun today, so I'm looking forward to that. At the moment, we are definitely in decorating and maintenance mode. We're doing lots of work in the house that is our holiday let. We spent yesterday repainting the stairwell. We are just about done with the redecorating for this winter. There is always lots of this type of work to do before we reopen in spring, but I think we're getting to the end of it now. Now, I've been talking in this vlog about reconnecting to the landscape and to the season of winter, and I've realised in filming this that this also connects to the writing I'm doing at the moment. My last vlog was about my Bronze Age epic fantasy project Immortals, and this is a story that has been through various iterations. I think I'm on about the 3rd round of edits, to go from generic medieval high fantasy to this Bronze Age setting, but I've realised in talking about landscape that I am still somewhat lacking that aspect in Project Immortals. I have a very strong grasp of the characters, I've done a lot of work on their arcs and their journeys, and I also think I have a pretty strong grasp of the plot. All of this has come from using the snowflake method to outline. It has really worked to bring the story together quite quickly, but what I am missing from this equation is the really serious world building. Now, I love world building both in my own work and in other fiction. I think it's what really draws me to fantasy as a genre, and the setting of Project Immortals has been developed over many years, but I think there is still a lot more to do, and I'm feeling that as I try to get back into the drafting. I have realised that I am not actually connected fully to the landscape in that story, and that is very important to me as a writer. Setting is often the thing that comes first for me when I'm developing a new book. But in writing Project Immortals, a lot of things are quite hazy to me. I've been working on the technology level with the Bronze Age society aspect, but as the characters have moved around from one location to the next, I don't think I've got a very firm grasp on the geography of this landscape. Also things like the climate, what flora and fauna can be found in each area, and even what time of year the story takes place. Seasons are very important in my writing, and I don't think I've even settled on what season the start of Project Immortals takes place in. So it seems to me that as I am reconnecting to the landscape around me and the part of the world I live in, I also need to do the same work in my fiction. I need to get to know the land of Project Immortals better in order to describe it better, and also get a sense of what the characters are moving through, because the atmosphere of setting is very important to me, and I don't think I've quite got that nailed down yet. I have been trying to make the most of the sun this week. There was a really beautiful sunrise this morning, and a couple of days ago we did actually have a full day of sunshine, which is so rare at this time of year. So on that particular day, I spent some time outside. I went out to take photos of the snowdrops in our garden. The snowdrops appearing is always one of my highlights of the winter. They start to appear above ground in very early January, so still very much in the depths of winter. And by the end of January, they have unfurled and started to properly flower. They will still stick around for a few weeks yet, so I'm hoping to get more time to enjoy them. But even though they appear in winter, they very much feel like a promise of spring to come. So I have been trying to enjoy that as much as possible. It is not always easy though. We have had some beautiful sunshine, but yesterday we had another storm blowing through with several hours of very intense rain and gales. So you can't really get used to any one weather at this time of year. It is very changeable. And yesterday, I have to admit, was one of those days that kind of reminded me of how little I sometimes like winter. Trying to reconnect with the season and the landscape like this is never something that has an end goal for me. This will always be a process, and it is something that I have to do all winter long and probably every winter for the rest of my life. I certainly can enjoy the sunny days, the crisp frosty days, the snow, but I also know that a lot of our winters are not like that, and for several months the hills will look very brown, the ground will be very wet and boggy, and it is something of a battle to make myself love those parts of the winter as much as the more palatable ones. So I suppose that is my reminder both for myself myself and for any of you out there who struggle with this time of year. We definitely do have to find moments of beauty and joy in the winter, but we can't expect to find one or two of those and then suddenly love this season for the rest of our lives. This is a process. It is an ongoing one. There are definitely ups and downs along the way. And so whilst I have enjoyed this week, I've enjoyed getting outside and filming and also spending time in the sunshine, I know there will be definitely days to come where I enjoy the season much less and I have to restart this process all over again. My hope, of course, is that it will get a little bit easier each time. So thank you for being here. I hope winter is treating you kindly, or summer if you were in the southern hemisphere. Really, whatever the season, try and make some time to get out there and enjoy it. See you next time.